Hello and welcome back to the playground. I am so happy to have you here. It has been a couple weeks. Again, I feel like the end of this year, I've just been doing every 2 weeks and we're flowing with that. I'm sorry, I just finished eating, but the guides said it's time to record and there will be another episode next week. I'm thinking we're going to do kind of like a reflection of the year slash share what we're excited for and leave with some like tips, right? I want to provide some value for you. And I think that through my reflections and just kind of like how I'm shifting my perspective, like moving into the new year, is going to help everyone. But I want you to think about this from your experiences and just kind of take that time to reflect. I really want to encourage that. If you want to shut this off and instead reflect, like that's what I support. I hope my reflection just encourages you to celebrate yourself, recognize yourself, and also like then use that to set intentions for moving forward. I know there's the goal planning and the year planning, all that stuff is available to you right now. And my most important thing is like sit with your reflections and just see how you feel and invite clarity to come in. That's really my process. So yeah, there's been so many initiations in the last, I want to say 3 months of this year, and I'm emotional just thinking about it, but I want to just share like how I've really felt this kind of buildup. And I'm in a year 3, personal year 3. We're in a collective year 7. And so like I just kind of knew that there was going to be a lot of this clarity around like who I am and how I want to be. And being a 7 year, it was a very internal process. It was a lot of reflection of like, here's how this plays out, and you can change that based off of how I feel or how I'm showing up, the way I talk, the way I dress, anything, right? Like it was a year about experimenting with who I am, my identity, the way I express myself, and seeing how that shifted my perspective on the world. And it was a lot of reflecting, a lot of surrendering, and honestly, a lot of hard conversations, because there were a lot of truths that I knew so deep in my body, but I wasn't expressing them. I wasn't living by them. I wasn't committing to them, right? And so it was, I'm like, I have full on chills talking about this because it was just, I've done a lot of reflecting already, of course, and like I'm proud of myself because I knew that this was the energy going into it, and having that awareness, I was like, I got this. Like, I'm excited for this. I knew things were going to be stirred up. I knew things were going to be reflected back to me very harshly. And like, there were times where there was I couldn't avoid it. I couldn't ignore it. And sometimes where I had this awareness and I had to just kind of like wait to know when I was supposed to act on it. There were times where I had the awareness and I had to do it right then. Like literally my physical body was like, move, and having that awareness, of course, my human self have the fear. Like I have the fears of, what is this awareness? What does this knowing mean? Is this going to change things? Is this going to change my relationships, how I show up, my job, like whatever? Of course that was all there, but like at the root of my being this year, I feel like I really held firm of like, I know this because this is my truth, and my truth is divine. And like trusting like my truth is ever evolving with me, and being able to communicate that, being able to share that and show up that way, it's been a huge initiation. So the last 3 months of this year, I feel like I finally see the puzzle pieces coming together. It felt very chaotic and just kind of slow at the beginning of the year almost. And it wasn't like, I don't even want to say it was bad. Like it wasn't bad, nothing bad about it. It was just a slower pace kind of spiritual movement, like kind of, I don't know if that makes sense, but the last couple months, it's just really picked up with one, my gifts are changing. The awareness that's dropping in it's almost like shocking. And then I'm seeing this theme kind of brought up of where people are, like where me, myself, but also I see it around me of like where this awareness is really this opportunity to expand or to step back in fear. And I could have just completely held back the last couple months, but I chose expansion, and I'm so excited. And I know it's not just the last couple of months, like it is the years before this, right? Like there's this buildup. I talked about numerology all year. I planned with it last year. If you listen to like my December episodes last year, or maybe January, I don't know. I talked about how I planned my year, how I looked at my year ahead, and it was all using numerology. And I did that again. And I just think that there's value in having this overarching awareness if you use it responsibly, if you use it to empower you, right? And so I want to get into that part of my year today, of really how I used awareness as an expander and not something to fear, because I think that's really what carried me through most of the year. Like, I think that is what kept me going. Like, I kept it exciting. I didn't let, of course, there were times where, yes, fear was there. And I'm sure there were decisions made out of fear. Like, I am human, and I'm sure that I did. And like that's going to happen. But overall, I feel like I worked with fear this year. And the way that I see fear in other people is through awareness. I if you're in this space, and especially if you're listening to this podcast, I would say you're probably that person that wants that awareness. Like, you're excited to like see things connect and have things resonate, and like you probably reach for like a tarot reading or an oracle reading. Now, not everyone wants that, and there's a reason. Like, it's a very valid reason, but I want to bring awareness to this piece, because it's like awareness on top of awareness. But even if you're all the way spiritual and you're super aware, super intuitive, like there is still a version of you, because you are human, that holds fear of what you know. Like, if I know this, I'll have to act on this. If I become aware of this, I might have to change something. I might have to have a conversation. It might change my perspective on something. It might change my memory. You know, there's all these things that could happen if we find something out, if we become aware of something. And we know this through experience. We don't have to think about that. And so we all have that experience. All of us humans have that experience of when we become more aware or get more information, our perspective shifts, our experience shifts. There is a subconscious fear that is always going to play a part in that. And whether we are aware of that, that could be a reason why we always respond to awareness with that, oh, what's going to have to happen now? Like, what's in store now? And I see this so much like thrown out there in the spiritual space, in the online space. And I value space being held for fears and insecurities. But when we are sharing awareness, and when we are talking about even like the energies that are available, if we're aware that it's available, I am telling you that it's a gift. That is the awareness. This worry or fear of what might play out is not packaged with the awareness for you to hold on to. Like, it comes with that because the awareness is bringing in something that might change, right? So that fear, uneasiness is the emotion that's coming up based off of this new awareness. And it's like, if we're sharing what we're afraid of, then that's the energy that we're carrying into this new awareness. And that's a very contagious kind of thing. You can get very addicted to becoming aware of what's available to you and then being afraid of it. And then you're constantly worried about what's going to happen. And you're taking yourself out of that creator role. And I've done this. Like I've been in that pattern where I'm like, okay, I don't like that. What's coming next? And I sit in this kind of uneasiness until the next energy is available, which is a whole other thing. But it's like astrology, Mercury retrograde. People talk a lot of crap about that. And there's a lot of, oh my gosh. But like, what do? Like you just sit in that the whole time, Mercury's in retrograde? People do. And I've seen the benefit of saying, okay, I can recognize the fears that are coming up because of X energy, but I'm going to do this with it. I'm going to create differently. I'm going to show up differently. I'm going to do something because of what's available to me. And it's not going to be out of fear. It's going to be out of excitement and creativity. And I feel like this year I just had no choice to sit in fear. It was like, I can either sit here and choose to be sorry for myself and be afraid of all the changes, or I can just do it and own it and know that, hey, if I don't like it, I can change things, you know? And so what I see is, and this isn't, I'm not bashing on anyone who is kind of like in that cycle of fear and awareness. It's 100% like, makes sense to me. And I like, you know, with any change, disruption, whatever, like there is that fear of what's going to happen. Like, how's this going to play out? And so with awareness, it's like, where are you holding yourself responsible of, okay, I am tapping in to get more aware, right? Like if you're listening to this, it's a conscious choice to listen to this. And if you listen to astrology updates or who you're subscribed to on Instagram or following, and who, you know, like what kind of news are you reading? Are you being responsible with that awareness? Because I'm not going to talk about the news. Are you being responsible with what you're consuming? Because what you're consuming is bringing in awareness. Might not be the best awareness depending on what you're consuming, but you know, whatever you're doing to become more self-aware, let's talk about self-awareness first. Are you being responsible with that? And I mean, are you letting it run your life with fear, or are you allowing it to expand you and see different possibilities and potential? So I'm trying to think of like if I shared this in an episode, but I've had a lot of big decisions in my life that I felt so much fear, but I had to ground myself in the awareness of the big picture, right? So the awareness is not connected to the emotion of fear. Fear might be coming along for the ride, but the awareness is greater than that. The awareness is a soul level thing, right? The fear is in your human body. Tapping into that bigger picture, that bigger awareness, you can still move in alignment in the direction that you want to go, regardless of what fears you have. Doesn't make it easy, but when you like stay grounded in that awareness of, you know, my awareness is divine. My fear might be here, but my awareness is divine. And honestly, the fears, like I could get into a whole discussion about fear. I recommend you follow the fear guy. I think that's his Instagram handle. Great person to work with if you recognize you have underlying fears or big fear. They don't have to be underlining, but fear is something like to alchemize, right? Like it is a compass for us. But I don't want to talk so much about fear, just more so like recognize our awareness is is sensitive to how we respond to it. It's just like our intuition. Like, well, okay, I'm not going to say it's just like our intuition, but our awareness, it's kind of like that thing where like something, like you become aware of something that bothers you. And like, you know, it bothers you, but you don't say anything. You don't say anything. And like the awareness doesn't go away, but you're like trying to put that it bothers you away. It doesn't work, right? Like the awareness is still there that at one point it bothered you. And so, okay, I don't know if that was even a good example, but I want you to know that like the awareness, it's sticky, but it also is dependent on how you respond to it. Like the awareness, it will be there, but if you are just ignoring it, then it's going to be tucked away and it might kind of explode at some point, right? This is why when things need to change in your life and you just like kind of keep pushing it off, at some point it kind of just explodes and you're forced to change it. That's really how awareness is too, in the sense that it's a gift to work with it instead of fear it or put it off or wait for it. Because if you are aware that something needs to be changed, you're aware that you need to move, right? So we'll go down the two paths, but you're aware that you become aware that you need to move. And there's so many fears that come up with that. It's not a good time to sell your house, says everyone, you know, and or it's a big task. You don't have the time. What about your job? Like, right? There's so many different fears. But at the end of the day, you are grounding yourself in this knowing that it is time to leave. My contract is up in this place, in this environment. And you ground yourself in that. You have the fears, but you know that it is divine for you to move. And you are committing to that. You are deciding. And so now you're going to take action of maybe looking for houses, maybe looking for a realtor, you know. As you start committing to that, your awareness is expanding into, okay, the potential, what's available to me. This is also really where your intuition is high volume, right? Awareness, intuition. It doesn't all have to come from your intuition. Your awareness can come from anywhere. The dogs. Okay, so I really feel like I honed in on the awareness part, but there's just this responsibility of, if you become aware of something, if you're in this space of wanting to be aware, step out of the fear, like recognize it, but step out of it. And I also recommend like don't put it all over the internet for everyone else to read. And I think that's where I really am just kind of like, what energy are you carrying? What energy are you bringing forward? Okay, you know that it's a 4-year for you. Maybe you're not so excited about that, but like, how can you get excited? Because that's the energy. And instead of worrying about like, oh, that means hard work, that means setting a new foundation, that means possibly having things pulled out from underneath me. But it also means a solid foundation is forming. You're having breakthroughs. You're committed. You have things that you are here to master, to like bring forward. And there's that duality of the awareness that a lot of people might avoid or fear. And when you get into it, you can fall into always holding fear with your awareness. And if it feels like you're always kind of like on to the next thing, what's next? What's next? Like, ask yourself, like, what energy am I holding? Is this all out of love? Is this all because I love myself and because I am here to create and to, you know, follow my purpose? Or am I doing this out of fear? Am I worried about what's going to play out? So I try to become aware, but then that worries me too. You know, like, get clear on what you're doing with your awareness and get clear on the energy that you are literally carrying out. I don't want to like belittle the fears that come up with change and transformation because they're real. They're so real. And I just want to remind you of how powerful you are and the ability to expand and create through awareness and intuition. It's available to all of us. Like, it is not off limits to anyone. It's about intention and paying attention. I've said that all year. Setting intentions and paying attention. And know that, like, the more aware you are, your fears just don't go away. And if you can move in love, then it makes the fears feel not as big all the time. So that was a huge lesson over the year for me. And with that, it was like love. A lot about fear and love this year for sure. But I guess what I want to wrap up with, I have no idea how long I've been recording this. No idea. But what I want to wrap up with is the power of love. And if you don't know, I just talked about, like, what energy are you bringing? Are you bringing love? And if you don't know, I simply this is the most simple thing, but invite love in. Say it out loud, say it in your head. I don't care. But like, invite love in, which almost sounds silly. Like, when I say that out loud, it kind of sounds silly because it's like, we are love. Like, you don't have to invite it in. But when we are wondering, like, is this, am I coming from a place of love? Are these people coming from a place of love? Like, you can know that. That's something you can identify. You have to pay attention and know what it feels like. So you got to start practicing with yourself. If you invite love in, you can feel it. And there's a reason why that's like a breath of fresh air to our soul, and I didn't understand the power of this until I started doing it every single day. And I don't know, like, I guess what I want to share is like the power of just surrendering and saying, I need more love. Like, bring me a higher love, bring me more love, like, however you want to say it, it is like we are a channel for love. This is getting real spiritual, but it's true. And being channels of love, like, as humans, there's all these other things going on, but like, we also channel love. And if we are able to remember that in the challenging times and the emotional times and the hard times and whatever perspective we have, and I do this every day regardless of how I feel. Like, I am just reminding my physical vessel, like, you are a channel of love. Like, bring it in. And it really shifted my perspective on, one, how I am. If I don't do that, like, if I'm not like actively like being a love being, like, if I'm not actively doing that, like, there is a difference on how I show up. There's a difference in my relationships. There's a difference in how I show up to work, the things that I want to do. And it brings back the excitement of things rather than the worries and the fears. And and when you get so clear on, like, what that feels like, things get really clear on what's for you and what's not for you. And your intuition, like, it's just like solid, right? I didn't know this is what I was doing all year. I would like cry and just like bring me more love. I need more love. I need more love, and essentially what I was doing was pulling it out of myself, like I'm channeling it for me and it's exuding out of me, of course, but like I did that as medicine, essentially, energy work, of course, and having that for my relationships, for my family, for my work, it's been like a breath of fresh air. And I just said at the beginning of the episode, I'm in a 3-year, wrapping up my 3-year, personal year 3. So I'm moving into a personal year 4, which is about, as you can imagine, I read a post and everyone was complaining that they're going into a 4-year, and I'm like, I'm so excited. So yeah, I'm going into a personal year 4, which I feel that, like, I feel this, like, we're halfway through December and I feel like I just like cleared the ground. I'm sure there's more ground clearing to happen. Like, we're not even in the 4-year yet, but like I feel this buildup of like the need to like get to work. It's coming. It's coming. And there's so many exciting things. There's a lot of like foundational stuff happening at the end of the year. We are officially adopting our last 2 kids. They're not the youngest, whatever. 2 more kids will be adopted into our family, and then we'll be done fostering and adopting. There's lots of just like completions and activations happening at the end of the year that really is also leading into this transition of me being in a personal year 4, but it's also a collective year 8, which is abundance. So it's feeling really, really good. We're in a December right now is a month 1, and it's kind of like new beginnings, which is probably why, like, if you are into numerology or thinking about, even if we look at the collective year 7 moving into collective year 8, December is a month 1. So there's kind of like this new beginning energy, and that new beginning energy is leading us into the new year, which is that new year energy. And if you're tapping into that, you probably feel like that energy of the new year already. And that's why it's like using your awareness to be expansive is fun, because it's not black and white. It's not, oh my gosh, I'm in a 4-year, so everything's gonna get torn out and out from underneath me. It may or may not, but it's probably not gonna be everything. And like it doesn't have to be like that. It could be, but like, are you deciding that? And it's not so black and white where it's like it has to happen exactly like this. And so that's where I'm just like, there's no point in really sitting in the fears, because a lot of our fears are based off of like past examples or things that happen to other people. And it's like there's just so much potential. Why are we spending our time in this one or few potentials that our mind wants to think that is going to happen? So stepping out of that and really getting into that creator of like, this is like my playground. This is fluid for me. I get to work with this energy, but I also know that I get to create whatever I want. And the energy is ready, 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 ready. Okay. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope this makes sense. I have no idea how long this is, and I have no idea if I covered everything I wanted, but I hope you enjoyed this. And this next episode will be a little bit more organized, but I know I wanted to just really remind ourselves why we are aware, like why the awareness is coming to us, and use that as like an empowerment tool rather than something that is cringe. And don't get me wrong, like I have times where I'm like, I wish I didn't know that. Like I wish, like, why did I have to know that? And it really comes down to like accepting the duality of awareness. And I've said that it is a blessing and a curse to be this aware at times. And I that's a really human thing to say for me because I at the end of the day, my awareness, I would never give it away, ever. And every day I look for more, because if I'm gonna have information that's only gonna help serve me on my mission for, like, the reason why I'm here, then why would I not want that? Like, of course I want that. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's gonna cause things to disrupt, like, I would rather do that. I'm not here to people please my own life. Like, I'm just not. And I've tried that. It's just not as fun. It's kind of boring. So, that's where I'm at. I don't I respect everyone where they're at. Like, I can tell from a mile away if people want to be aware or not. And I respect that, because I'm not here to bring awareness of anything if it's going to cause, panic. And that's the other thing, is like trusting that, we have everything that we need to know. Like, we have the awareness that we have because we're ready for it. And we have everything we need, and we don't have too much. So that's where our intuition is really there for us, in the sense, like, it's not going to unload everything that's going to, like, overwhelm you and literally cause your body to break down, because, like, why would it's it's you, like, you're not going to do that. And so know that, like, your awareness and your intuition is guiding you. It's not guiding you to stress you out, to worry you, to bring up all your fears. Yes, your fears are coming. Yes, there's going to be stress, but it's guiding you. So trust that, and trust that, like, okay, I have this next step. I'm going to take this next step, bring the energy that I want to bring to that, which is usually excitement, expansion, joy, whatever, abundance. I don't even pick one, you know, commit to it and see what happens. See what that next awareness or intuition hit is, and trust that. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's it. We're wrapping up. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please find us on Instagram or at the Intuition Playground. You can tag us or shout us out. And if you're up for it, we would love a rating or review on the show. It really helps get more listeners and just get the show out there. So thank you. Thank you. I will talk to you all next time on the Intuition Playground.